Public Utility Advisory Board. Christina, will you please call the roll?
Steve McGlucky, Michael Talcott,
Here.
David McDowell,
Here.
Sherry Tyndall, here, Anthony Jeremita,
Here.
Les Boatright.
Here.
Okay. We need to approve the minutes from March 16th.
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? I hear, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Changes, anything? If not, will you please call the roll?
Michael Talcott,
Here.
David
Oh,
McDowell,
yeah. Sorry.
Sherry Tyndall,
Yes.
Anthony Jeremita,
Yes.
Les Boatright.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Our first discussion item is discussion on non-ordinance action item number 1 for the aeroderivative combustion turbines that were voted down by the city council. I believe Mr. Talcott wanted this.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to say up front, I'm recovering from laryngitis, so if you don't catch something, just ask me and I'll repeat it. So I'm sorry. I want to start out too before I start this. I wanted to officially recognize all of our linemen as a belated National Linemen's Appreciation Day, which was the 18th. So I wanted to have that on record. Okay. What I wanted to say about this, the turbines have been voted down. Okay. So my question is, where do we go from here? How's this going to affect our utility? And if Jim or Joe, whoever wants to maybe explain kind of in terms so that the people watching, I mean for us too, but for the people watching, how this is going to affect us or the city?
Well, the short answer is immediate. It won't immediately. We still do, and one of the council members pointed out, we still have a capacity reserve. But as we will continue, staff will continue to evaluate as we look at the upcoming dates for those various contracts to expire. We'll be looking at options on how we're going to maintain our capacity.
So are the turbines were our best option, right? So excluding those, since apparently those aren't going to be on the table, what is going to be, like, just in your opinion, our next best option? Because doesn't our first contract run out, or that permitting process run out at the end of 2024?
No, our capacity contract with Onetta expires in 2030.
Right.
Our wind contract with Smoky Hills expires in 28. So we'll be looking ahead at 28 and 30 at how to replace that capacity.
Right. But what I meant was our certificate extension for our generation.
The FERC waiver. The FERC waiver was to have something in place by the end of 24. So yeah, that's over.
So then, if that ever comes up for whatever reason, past that, then we get in line, and it's like a multi-year process, correct?
Yes, the process going forward will be to do a request for new generation through SPP.
Right.
Currently, that's like 4 years, but they're trying to get a fix on that.
Okay.
So to kind of be clear, the FERC waiver granted us SPP approval,
Right.
to enter their short-term replacement generation process.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended April 9th, and with council's recommendation of not moving forward with that, we told SPP no. So the FERC waiver is done as of today. There is no more FERC waiver because we told SPP we're not moving forward with that generation project.
So that means, like I asked them, so that means that if we ever do consider again generation, then we get in line, and then
if we decided tomorrow, hey, you know what, we'd like some turbines there, then we get back into the 3 to 5 year SPP study process.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. That's all I have on that one, unless somebody else has any comments.
that made me curious about a second possible idea, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
If we were to, for example, buy into another utilities build, let's say there's a wind farm going out in Kansas, which, I know every day it seems like somebody new is adding a wind farm. Let's say we said, can we buy a couple of rows of wind turbines for the next 30 years, whatever it might be. Are those contracts or approvals from SPP faster because they're already an approved project?
That depends. If it is an approved project, if the project's already approved, then yes, you escape that line. What would still have to be approved, just like when we went out for the capacity deal with Oneta, we had to get the transmission studied by SPP. That they do that twice a year, so you have to get in the window at whatever deadline to hit the next study.
So it's a little faster than that 3 to 5 if we were to get involved in a different group.
If you're getting into an existing project, correct?
Yeah. Thanks.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. Moving on. Discussion on non-ordinance action item number 3 for the future ownership model of IPL that was approved by the city council.
Okay, everybody got coffee ready? Okay, I'm going to start this out with, this is a charter violation. And I'm going to read section 3.18 of the charter. The council shall not pass any ordinance, resolution, motion, or other proposition that relates to any matter of policy or planning of a public utility operated within the city without first giving the board the opportunity to submit to the council within a reasonable time the board's findings and recommendations relating to such matters. So, can somebody explain to me, if they disagree with that, can somebody explain to me why it wouldn't be a charter violation?
So if you're asking about a charter violation, we'd have to bring in our legal counsel to issue an opinion on that.
Okay, well that's a good place for me to ask this then. So, because I guess we'd have to talk to the city councilor also, is what if any recourse, correct?
I would suggest that if you have questions for the city councilor, that you submit a memo outlining your questions, and then we'll bring those to them for review.
Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to ask Chairman what I'd like to propose, because there are going to be 2 or 3 other things in here that are going to be questions according to what Mr. Norris has suggested that we're going to need to ask him. So what I would like to do is make a motion to call a special meeting and soon, because before they get too much into this, finding their pro and con study people, I'd like to make a motion that we have call a special meeting and invite the city councilor to answer questions for us.
Okay. Okay. Do we know who's going to do the study?
You need a second for your motion.
Yeah, I will say you need a second. I will second it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do we know who's doing the study?
No, sir. There will have to be an RFQ put together and put out to solicit proposals and bids.
Okay.
My coming from this is not necessarily the who's doing it yet, but to try and get it before they start, and because I'm coming at this from it's a charter violation.
Right. I was just curious.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, I agree with Michael. This is a charter violation. For them to even start the process without going through the process properly is a charter violation. A meeting's one thing, I think just asking the questions another, but the only way we can discuss this is with a second. It might be, well, we're gonna have a special meeting to expedite this for the city council. So I seconded the motion and I agree the motion's a good motion.
So, might have one more question. So do we need to make it specific? Do we need to make it like within 2 weeks or the next 2 weeks or
I
what?
think we probably need to nail down a date.
Because we don't want to wait until the
Right,
next
right.
PUAB meeting.
We have a standing, special meeting date of basically 2 weeks from today. So,
First Thursday of the month.
yeah, that would
First
make
Thursday.
sense.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
That would be the 4th of May,
Okay.
right?
It is the 4th of May. I got baseball tickets, I won't be here. You guys have to do this without me.
Well, would it be possible to move it a day ahead, like maybe on Wednesday?
Well,
I
Wednesday
think
I got doctor's stuff with
Oh.
my wife all day, so.
My feelings is you probably don't need me there to ask that question. It'd be nice if we could just pick up the phone right now and call.
There's gonna be more than just one thing.
I'll keep on. Go ahead.
That's okay, that's all right.
Okay, so Thursday, May 4th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we schedule any meetings, for someone that's not here, we need an opportunity to coordinate with that person. You also need to pose your questions, whatever those are. You can submit those to me after the meeting, so that person can be prepared to answer those questions.
Okay,
You can't schedule a meeting for someone that's not here.
sure.
Okay?
So do we need to set the meeting tentative based on
Yeah,
whether the
how would
counselor
we
can
do
be
it?
here?
Or
If the intent is to expedite this discussion because of council action that may occur before the next PUAB meeting, I think we can, I don't anticipate that being an issue, where it's gonna take several weeks, 4 to 6 weeks before, we have go through our full process, and have something before the city council. So, I first would think that just having this discussion at the next regularly scheduled PUAB meeting would be fine. If nothing else, we can take this discussion here and just work our schedule accordingly.
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
I think before we schedule the meeting, we need to just put the questions in writing and give them to Mr. Norris to take to the city's councilor and have them look at it and render an opinion on it. And then from there, it may be we schedule a special meeting to discuss it, or it may address his issue that we can then put on the next PUAB agenda to discuss and hopefully have that counselor here at that meeting to discuss it in person.
Okay.
But I think the big thing right now, is it a charter violation or not? They're gonna have to render a decision. So before we have a meeting on it, I'd say just pose your questions, give them to Mr. Norris and let him hand them off to get some research done. Because we don't know what their schedule's like. From some other committees I'm on, I know they're really getting piled up with work. And I'd hate to say you gotta have it done in 2 weeks and they're 4 weeks out. So we're still gonna be at the next meeting anyway. But I think before we schedule a meeting, I'd say just pose the questions and get a response back.
Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, my only hesitation is past
And say,
records. I don't want to do this, and then I appreciate that and I respect that. However, my concern is that the questions get posed, we get a response, but then it gets delayed about having a face-to-face. Well, I want a face-to-face with the counselor to have a discussion. And, he's there for the city council meetings. He's been there they've had a representative at the meetings for charter review. I feel more comfortable being able to have a face-to-face discussion. Now, I'm okay with that. Sending the questions ahead of time, but in my gut, I'm thinking, okay, then we wait till the PUAB meeting, and then something's already started to transpire. So I don't want the snowball to get going and then can't stop it. That's all. That's my concern. So I don't know what kind of assurities I can have. If you can help me, Mr. Norris.
There are very few things in city government that can't be undone. So
I understand, but when somebody wants something done, it can be made to happen quick.
it can, but keep in mind anything that gets posted that gets on the city council agenda has to be done 2 weeks in advance. At a minimum, we still need to draft the RFQs. Those need to be posted
Okay.
for a period of time for responses to be made. Then selections need to be made for those, requests for qualifications.
Okay.
So there's a rigorous process that we undergo before anything gets on the city council agenda. So
Okay.
there's multiple weeks ahead before anything would get posted to the agenda.
So
Postings are typically a minimum of 30 days.
Yeah, it's typically three to 4 weeks. Competitive solicitations are typically 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
And for something fairly complex like this, that seems reasonable.
Okay. So at a minimum, we've probably got 6 weeks, correct, before it would show up for
Oh, that would
council
be
vote.
that would be the absolute soonest. It's 3 weeks for posting. We have to put it on the city council agenda 2 weeks in advance.
Gotcha.
But it's going to take us, time to go through a selection, get the potential respondents here to talk. It's
Okay.
negotiate a contract, scope
Right.
of services, all these things. So.
Okay. Well, then I'm comfortable with that. If we turn in the questions, and if we could maybe, I don't know if it's unreasonable to ask not to just let it go on forever for a response, but if we can get a response in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks over email, and then just put it up for discussion and invite him for the next PUAB meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
So I'd first say we need to establish a timeline for whenever the PUAB is going to submit questions to me. So is that a week, 10 days?
I can write those up and give them
Right.
to you today.
But the rest of the board, if they also have questions,
Right, okay.
is 10 days enough? Is next Friday enough? And then, I'll submit those to the city
So
council.
we'd submit them through Christine like we did the last time, right?
Right.
Okay.
Would a week give everybody enough time to submit their questions?
Do we need to all agree on them as a board? Or,
I wouldn't say. I mean, your questions are your questions. You have the right to ask your questions.
Mhm.
Would
So-
be my.
So kind of like when we did the letter that Les drew.
Right.
all approved it though before it went forward.
Right,
Right.
right. So we
Because
all
that was
asked our,
coming from all of us collectively.
right.
It was more of a statement rather
Right.
than a question.
Right.
Unfortunately, it did not meet with the response I was looking for. But I do have a question about clarity. Could we get a reading of the exact action item number 3?
Yep.
Just the wording so that we know exactly what we're talking about.
It is. Now, the whole thing is very long,
Sure.
so
Usually there's like a 1-sentence title.
no, it
My
came,
goodness.
it came out the whole, it'll come up. Of course, it's gonna,
This
I don't
building
have
doesn't
come
have
out
great
now.
service, but
I screenshotted it. It took up like 5 pages. it goes through each individual, the agenda title. The agenda title was council action is requested to direct and authorize the city manager to initiate a process to evaluate all options relative to the future ownership model of Independence Power and Light.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got recommendations, executive summary, background. It goes into all that. So it's quite lengthy.
Deeper than I thought. So thanks for.
But it's got dates that they will have it on the ballot, and that I'm going to cover that in a minute. So anyway, whatever, if anybody has any other suggestions, like I said, I'm okay with some wiggle room on that.
But a week to submit questions would be okay with everybody.
Mr. Chairman, we have a motion on the floor. I
Yeah.
think we ought to go ahead, call the
Yeah.
question, vote it down, and
Yeah.
then go
Okay.
forward.
Okay. Can you please call the roll on the motion to call a special meeting?
Michael Talcott,
No,
David McDowell,
No,
Sherry Tyndall,
No.
Anthony Jeremita,
No.
Les Boatright,
No.
Okay,
now go
so
forward.
that's
Yeah.
now
thank you.
a week is okay to submit any questions anybody might have.
That sounds good.
It sounds good, but I'm watching Mr. Boat right down there. I believe he's got them already written.
He's already jotting things down. Yeah.
I have lots of
My
faith in
grocery
you.
list, I'm going
You'll
there.
have it done in about 10 minutes, right?
Well, a little further down, be ready because it's going to come up a couple more times.
Okay, so we'll plan on by next Thursday have your questions sent to Christina, right? And then you will hand them over to Adam to.
So do you want to make a new motion now for this?
Does this need a motion?
I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah. we'll make a
Okay.
motion.
I move that we turn in questions to Christina within the week. What is that next?
27.
By the 27th, for Christina to compile and send those to Adam Norris to present those to the city councilor. Does that sound
Counselor,
okay?
Counselor.
to the city councilor.
To the city councilor. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
City
Thank you.
attorney.
Right.
Make it easier.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Please call the roll.
Michael Talcott,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Sherry Tyndall,
Yes.
Anthony Jeremita,
Yes.
Les Boatright,
Yes.
Okay. And you said you had more on this.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Section 3.12. There shall be an electric utility department. This is the second charter violation I'm addressing. In my first or second meeting here, I was informed that even talking about selling IPL was against the city charter. By passing the ordinance, the council passing the ordinance that includes a time frame for the public vote to sell IPL or not, November 2023, as early as that, or as late, no later than November 2025, the council has again gone against the language of the city charter. So I'm just going to open that up if there are any comments, and if not, I'll leave it as, because that's going to be part of those other questions that are going to be compiled. So if anybody has any comments or questions.
Anybody have any comments?
I think that would be actually a pretty good question for the city councilor to address. We could spend a whole day on this one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anybody else?
So
Hearing none.
Well, I will move on. So number 2, by passing this action item, hasn't the council just planted a big for sale sign in front of IPL at a minimum coming soon? How many companies expressed interest before the vote and after the vote? And I don't know if Jim or Adam can speak to any of that. I think I remember hearing somebody said that there'd probably been maybe one that had come to or at least talked, but I'd kind of like an idea after they voted with the council, have we started having people express interest in IPL?
I haven't gotten any
Okay.
contacts.
Because I've been hearing rumors, and the only reason I say rumors is because way back when we talked about rumors of selling IPL, and people said, "No, we're not selling it," and then here we are. So that was my that concern, because even if voters turned it down, I'm wondering if this puts us at higher risk for a hostile takeover. And I know that may sound a little off or weird, but even the APPA talks about that with city municipalities defending against private companies, and that's for the people watching. That's the American Public Power Association. So.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I'd caution this board and our employees and anybody else to be very wary of any rumors. If you have questions, you can come to us during these meetings or separately in advance, and we'll be glad to address them. But rumors are awful dangerous, especially right now when we're considering something very serious going forward. So I'd caution you all against, giving those much credence without talking with staff who should be in the know on these things. Okay.
And that's why I'm presented to the board, because that's why I presented it when I started hearing people around town talking about IPL looking to sell. And again, like I said, that's why we're here now. So, okay. Anything else on that one?
Does anybody else have any comments, questions?
Okay. Number 3. Okay, so now it's in the city staff's hands to conclude this as early as 2023 and no later than November 2025. So is the city saying they can have consultants pro and con hired, studies completed, education of voters through forums, town halls, and Q&A sessions, and have a ballot as early as 6 months from now? And my big concern was, okay, why do they even put it as early as? Because we've got so many things in the fire and in the works now. That concerned me. Because the charter is the charter. We're dealing with the charter now, not some charter in the future. And I'm also concerned the council's trying to ram this through. You can't have a sale without a charter change. Okay. So this was going to be another one to deal with the city councilor. And then the last part of that is, once the studies are done, are they going to have PUAB review them first? Because they've been seeming to cut us out of the process. So I don't know if that would be a question for Jim or Adam, because once they complete that process, since they've kind of gone away from us for this one, are they going to bring that to us to review?
Who's they?
The city
Council.
council.
City council?
Because does the stuff, the way I understand this, we look through things and then we make a recommendation to the council and they decide whether or not they're going to take that recommendation. But we generally are supposed to see things first that they're going to be considering. So that's why I'm asking, if once the studies are done, will those be presented to us for our purview to send our recommendation on to the council?
So if they is the city council,
Yes.
then I can't speak for the city council.
The city.
So So again, I can't speak for the city council whether that would be. I think it is. What I'm hearing you say is you're recommending that during this process that is going to unfold, that the board would like to have some role in that. And so
Yeah,
maybe that's what
It's for the city manager's office that I'm asking it, because are they going to go ahead and include us in the process once those are done? That's my question.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be obtuse here, but I'm
No,
trying
that's
to
okay.
understand what you're saying. What process is, like, trying to understand
Right.
what you're asking.
Once the pro and con studies are done,
Mhm.
once they've hired the people, they've done their studies
Okay.
to keep it or to sell it, are the results of those two studies gonna be able to come through us to review before they go to the city council? Because that seems to be the process that I'm kind of understanding from the current charter.
The way I understood the discussion at the city council meeting when this was deliberated and reading the agenda item, there's going to be there would be a robust community conversation as part of all of this. So that includes lots of different stakeholders in the community, including this board and other groups associated with the city. So that's the way I read that action item.
Okay. I still feel that it should come through PUAB before it goes on to the process, because I still think that we should have at least the ability to review, because if we don't agree with some of it and it gets pushed out, then our feeling might be that the public isn't getting exactly what they need, either pro or con. It doesn't matter, but I want to make sure that you've got eyes, that you've got objective eyes on something before you push it out to people that have even less knowledge than any of us. So that's my concern on that. So I'll leave it at that, and it may come up next month then again too. All right, number 4. I'll try and get this done. So now we're asking, and this goes into the voters. So now we're asking the voters to take on the task of sitting through a town hall for an hour to get enough info to make a very important decision that will affect us for generations to come. If the council, who they attend information meetings with staff, or may even have sat on the PUAB board, don't have enough info to make hard decisions, and they've as much said that, yet we're expecting voters who have even less information than that. Isn't the council, in a sense, making the voters the scapegoat? Because from here on in, it'll be, well, the voters made the decision. This is Independence's greatest asset that apparently we're willing to let go away by a vote of people that have less info than the council even. And this is where I think I'll say, okay, Independence has had their utility for 122 years now. It actually came to independence in 1887, was official in 1901. And we've made it through the Spanish flu. We've made it through World War I, the Great Depression, World War II. We've made it through all these wars. We've made it through all these recessions and downturns. And now we've made it through this horrendous pandemic. And we've made it through. They've built, over that 122 years, we built 4 power plants, small to large, obviously. We've got my kid's great-grandfather was a lineman, came to Independence to work as a lineman after World War II, being a lineman in the military. So he retired, I believe, in early 80s. And so we just have to, I think we have to put this in perspective. And maybe this is for the council who will hear this. In the past, there's been no problem pulling the trigger on $10 million to tear down Missouri City when it didn't need to be, and paying twice as more for solar farmland. So these are things that are big concerns. And if anybody has a comment, that's fine. But I want to make the statement, because I think the statement needs to be made, that this is a very valuable asset. And for us to even consider giving this away, you've got municipalities in California now trying to purchase their portions from PG&E. So you not only have people that have sold their utilities, mostly water, but now they're regretting trying to get that back. Once things are sold, it's gone. So I think unless anybody has a comment, then I'll just let that go and I'll go on because I'm almost done.
Any comments?
Okay, so now I'm going to ask, does anybody here really think selling IPL is a good thing? Because what that does is take control out of the hands of city and ratepayers, the city, municipal, and ratepayers, places it in the control of a for-profit entity. And I emphasize, make no mistake, it will be for-profit. People throw around the term privatization, and I get that. However, that's a soft term for profit. So if anyone honestly thinks they won't pass on acquisition costs of upgrades, including generation, slapping smart meters on every home, we're fooling ourselves. So again, if anybody has a comment, that's fine. If not, I will go on.
Comments?
I just have one thought. What immediately comes to mind, and I do appreciate this conversation, I'm just kind of taking it in because I know a lot of Independence residents and ratepayers feel the same shock that you're feeling and would express a lot of the same things. The one positive that immediately came to mind when you asked that question is we've had a difficulty as a city maintaining an employer relationship with a lot of people as things have changed and retirement plans have changed and city employee retirees benefits and that sort of thing have changed over the years. And the one positive of having many of those roles handed over to a different company is the employment portion would no longer be on our citizens because it has been a struggle as times have changed. Things have just really changed a lot since a lot of those people were hired, let's say 40 years ago, and they've been retired for a decade and things just keep getting more and more expensive for the city. So that's the one that popped into my mind. But I see both sides of a lot of the things that you're talking about. And so I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. But when I joined this board almost 2 years ago, I saw more of the positives of moving generation to someone else's responsibility. And then over time, I've decided that maintaining control of our choices is kind of a big deal. So
Yeah.
I have an ear in both directions. And I am interested in what the studies turn out, but hiring another study group is
More money.
it's more money gone.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. And I do like the idea that the PUAB gets a good look at things before it goes public.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions?
And then what I would like everybody to do, if they have any questions, just as an example, look at Evergy's Facebook page. And I'm not picking on them because they're just the big guy. So look at the disenchantment, the unhappiness, the fact that their service, they've got more service percentage wise out than us currently. There's not going to be any guarantee of lower rates. And I want everybody to think about Spire's 2 increases that they just got in 1 year. So if you think rates are too high now, you will no longer have a say. The people in Independence will no longer have a say. They'll call up at the city, my lights aren't on, or my bill is wrong. Well, you don't talk to us anymore. And so then they have to talk to the big conglomerate. For-profit companies answer to their stakeholders, not we citizens. They're there to make a profit. I feel for city manager having to balance the budget, as there's no longer going to be transfer funds from IPL, no more municipal rates, no more borrowing for projects such as money borrowed from the water company for the farmers market, and he'll have to budget for streetlights. So this is kind of my last one. What happens if IPL is sold? What happens to the funds after debt services and obligations are paid? Does that money go back to the ratepayers? My understanding from the charter is that profits are supposed to be returned to the ratepayers, and also what happens to the millions in reserves. So that would kind of be, I guess, a question. If you can't answer it, I understand if that's a city councilor thing. I understand, but that's a big question, and I've had people already ask them that.
Yeah, so I think as this process would unfold, a lot of those questions would be part of what we would ask these firms, these professionals to weigh in on.
Okay. So anyway, wrapping this up, we're a member of APPA, the American Public Power Association. So a suggestion I might make is that maybe we have somebody come from them, representing them, to come speak to us, to educate us as a board, and also beneficial to the ratepayers and the people that are going to be voting on this, because they try and let people know the positives of keeping your municipal utility, because it's all about control. And if we control our own utility, whether we have poor functioning relationships or whatever, again, we've made it through 122 years, and I don't see how there can't, maybe in the studies they'll show that we need to do some things. But even through that MKMT study, I went through that, and they even made recommendations in there regarding relationships between employer and employee. So that would be my final thing, is I would make a suggestion. I don't know that it needs to be a motion, but I think maybe we bring it up at the next meeting again, but keep in our tackle box, possibly getting APPA to send somebody to educate us on the importance of a city, of a municipality, keeping how valuable it is to keep our utility service in the city, in our hands, not in somebody that doesn't care about the city. And they won't. We'll just be the people that are paying them. And if we have electricity one day, we do. And if we don't have electricity, oh well. We'll get to you when we get to you. And that's what's so good about Independence. We have very short and very little outage time. So I'm done. If
Does anybody else have anything to
I
add?
got something. You mentioned the APPA. I do not know them, but I would like to listen to them. And I think that it might be just as easy to do a Zoom call with them. I don't know where they're located at, but if they have a canned presentation that they do for communities like ours, I think it would be worth our while to listen to it. Now, one other thing I'm going to say. Our downtime is the best ever. We never have downtime. I mean, Independence, Power and Light, 2 thumbs up. And I would hate to lose control of our Power and Light and turn that over to someone who might take 3 or 4 days to get my lights back on. That's all I got.
Anything else?
I have a comment on that. I have been told by someone who might or might not be privy to the right information that a utility can sell generation and keep the transmission, split the department between those people who keep the lights on for us versus the part where they're making the energy.
We are actually doing that right now by purchasing our power through other contracts, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're actually doing that right now. So we may have to enter into some new contracts, and let's hope we get good deals out of them. And it's kind of nice when you can turn that machine on and you know how much it's going to cost you, opposed to let's see what it's going to be like in 3 or 4 years, because it might be a whole lot more money.
Anything else?
Thank you for listening.
Okay. We will move on to our staff reports. Finance and Administration.
Good afternoon. I don't know how much detail you guys want me to go into. Honestly, same report as last month is what I would say. Still, we're positive on penalties and charges. We still have services that we've contracted for that haven't yet been, or that we are reflecting in the financials as having been paid for, because there are encumbrances and purchase orders outstanding, although those services haven't been done. So those are showing higher than budgeted currently, but they will even out as we head through the year, or the rest of the year. So I don't have a lot different to report than your financial. Everybody's looking good. I did notice as I was going through things today that we need to make an entry into transmission wheeling, that we need to get that fixed. So that is only showing about 54%, and it should be up to date. That is a monthly entry that needs to happen. That's the only thing I saw that would be any different than the previous couple months, which has pretty much been the same report.
I have a question. For the last 90 days, are delinquencies trending up, trending down, or are they about stable?
I think that I would have to go in and look at the detail. I look at utilities as a whole, for all the utilities, utility billing in general as a whole. I don't just pull out one utility if you're talking IPL
No,
or
I'm talking about
all of them.
Yes.
So your utility delinquencies, let me get back to you.
That would be fine. I'm just curious. I've been hearing for the last 6 months we're headed for a recession. I'm thinking, how's our people holding up? Are we doing okay? Are we paying our bills on time? I'm talking about the ratepayers.
You know, good and bad. The one good thing, I guess, about utilities is we can shut them off if people get too far behind. So people don't tend to get extremely far behind on their utility bills. Now, whether that's going up or down, it's getting a little bit worse. I'll have to get back to you, but I think in general, we have pretty good collection policies and people pay. Now, that doesn't mean they don't get out to their limit and then find funding, grants, subsidies, whatever, in order to pay their bills. But for the most part, utilities kind of has a hammer that other things don't have. Most people can't live without water, sewer, and electric. So
I was just curious if there was any kind of trend that you saw. And if you could keep an eye on that and be able to answer that at the next meeting, that'd be
Sure.
great.
Yep.
Probably go out 90 days.
sure.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Municipal services. We don't have anybody.
I'm speaking on behalf of municipal services.
Thank
There's,
I just realized, I looked up and realized there was nobody in that chair.
I'm just a few inches shorter. No report from municipal services today.
Okay, thank you. Water department, Mr. Montgomery.
And I can add to that question about McDowell. We normally shut off the power because it's much easier. And the other thing is we shut off power first, and that gets their attention. I've been here for 40 years in June. We normally write off 0.5%, so that means we're collecting 99.95%. So when she's making a statement that we have a ability to shut off and control that. So just to kind of give you a heads up that coming out of the winter period where we can't shut off because of weather and different reasons like that. So normally this time of year we're a little behind, but it gets caught up as soon as we start making those disconnects.
I was just trying to get a handle on the local economy with our ratepayers, if they're hurting enough. And I
Right.
didn't know if we could tell by their payment records if this is good or bad.
I know that we have a whole bunch, and I'm going to say over 500 probably a month of programs that make payments for various ratepayers. And some of that money came available through COVID funding. It is still readily available and people are using it. How long that will be available, I don't know, because it's my understanding it's available till it runs out. So those programs and other programs have been funding people who are struggling with their utilities over the past couple of years. And we still have a significant number of people who are accessing those programs. Lots of them can only be applied for one time a year. Some of them can be applied for multiple times. So it's hard to get an idea of, are there more people, are there less people? But we have a pretty consistent number of people who are still getting assistance. So I would say, I think it's still struggling from that perspective. People are still using those funds and asking for those funds, and those funds didn't used to be available. So that would be my only indicator to answer that question.
I missed the last meeting, so Deputy Director Matt McLaughlin mentioned that we were in the Berkeley Springs water contest, and I'm looking at Riley over here, and she had sent out a press release, and hopefully most of you have seen that, but what long and short of it is a couple things. So the Berkeley Springs, we did come in 4th place in the United States of United States cities. I think we were 7th in the world, so we got beat out by a couple Canadian cities and Korea, South Korea. So we have that, but we also were named by the American Water Works Association the best water in the state of Missouri, which means we will take or send a water sample. It's got to go to Toronto, is where the meeting is in June. So if I can get Adam to take it there, but I might get him arrested when he tries to take the water across the border. But anyway, we'll be entering that water in the best of the best contest at AWWA in Toronto. But thank Riley for the nice love we got for press release. She also put out her press release about we have a new city program, the Peace of Mind Utilities for Customers. So City of Independence residents who are elderly, have a disability, long-term illness, mobility issues, or they can't get in to talk, we can put them on the account. And if something comes up, that someone needs to be notified in advance so that we don't shut off their power or do something that would cause a hardship on them. So we can have customers sign up for that. That's another press release. So Riley's been really busy with us. I just thought if it hasn't been said here in this meeting that I would at least share that with you. You may have read it through the press release, and then in case you missed it, not. And the other item, I was just going to bring you up to date on some of our main emphasis is on main replacement projects. I think Matt mentioned that at the last meeting. But the Gudgel Avenue project is a $1.1 million, 4,000 feet of pipe. We're on the punch list, which that means is they're just cleaning up a few items that are over there. That project seemed like it went on and on and on as through the winter. That's done. Truman Road water main replacement project. That's $500,000, so 1,300 feet. And that's down by Power and Light. And I get asked by the Power and Light staff, when are you going to get the grass out there? I saw them laying sod, so that's encouraging. So they're on the site restoration of that. Salisbury Road main replacement. It seems to me like that project just started as a $1 million project with 2,800 feet. I found out today that they're completely have all the pipe in, the main replaced, the services switched over. So they'll be working on restoration sites. So again, putting sod down and that type of thing. So those projects have moved along rather well, that one especially. We're starting on Northern Boulevard and Ralston Avenue water project, $800,000, 2,000 feet. The issue there is they can't get pipe. It's on back order. So that will be in the fall is when that contractor will be really getting ramped up for that. And we've just started one over here north of 23rd Street, Trail Ridge Drive, Pacific Avenue. It's a different contractor. He was able to get pipe, and he says he'll have that done by July of 2023. So that's 2,500 linear feet on Trail Ridge and 1,600 linear feet on Pacific. But that's where we're going to be talking for the next several years, where we're doing these main replacement projects. So those are just some updates that I thought I would share with you today.
Thank you.
Water tank on 39th Street. Do you have an idea when that will be done?
Yes, in about 2 weeks.
Yay.
So I should have brought that up, but that's not as visible. I mean, it's visible to some folks. I mean, it's our largest tank. It's 5 million gallons of storage. It's painted green right now, but it'll be painted. The final coat will be white.
They're using some type of vacuum device that makes a high-pitched noise
So
that's running 24 hours a day now.
he must be close. So, and the answer to that is everything's mechanical. I mean, I say mechanical. There's like the edges of that where they'll have like I say, it's like a robot. So it not only runs and it also sucks up the dust and all that. It's like ball bearings. It's not like what you traditionally sandblast. And that tank's not had lead on it for several years because we replaced that. It's been painted since then. So I was just talking to one of our staff members. It may be 20 years before we're back on all these tanks again because we'll have them all finished after this year.
One last thing. I've been watching them work, and I think that tank's got to be at least 4 stories tall, maybe 5.
I mean, it's very deceiving when you're up close to it. So, yeah, it's 5 million. It's the largest tank we have.
And you'll see men up there, and there's no safety.
Well, I couldn't speak for that, but I've not been out there. But I would say that they should be tied off and all that. Now, granted, I'm with you. It's a flat roof. It's unique to some of the, like when I see people climbing towers out here or some of our water towers, it's a whole different setup. But to them, you know, what their definition of safety is, but I'm not out there to know what they're doing.
Well, during a windy day, you see a guy standing on the edge, you think, please don't.
Yeah, don't jump, but don't fall off either.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, well, appreciate your comments, and hopefully they said what I heard today was that like a couple weeks away, they would be done and the final paint would be put on it. But like those edges where you're talking about it, where it's dangerous, that can't be done by a robot. So it can only get so close, so they're going to have to go back around and do all that, clean it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Hearing none, thank you. IPL.
Just a couple of things for you this month. Our projects that are out there are underway, working on the line on the west side of the city, replacing poles and conductors on that. That is going well. We've got engineering and that the preliminary work in progress for the new substation that'll support the North Point development and the whole east side there. But in the last month, we've gotten some good news. We've gotten 3 awards from the American Public Power Association. We got a safety award, and as far as we can tell, it's the first time ever that Independence Power and Light has been recognized for its safety excellence. So great news there. They take a look at your injury statistics based on like 100,000 work hours or whatever. But we got honorable mention this year. So that's a great progress for our team. The second one, they take your reliability statistics, just the numbers, and they have a certificate they award for being in the top 25 percentile of the entire country. We were notified of that. And the biggest one, the Reliable Public Power Provider, the RP3 award. The results are out, and we've been awarded the Diamond Level Award, which is the top 1% of utilities. We've been awarded the Diamond Award again for the 3rd time. So we'll be making a presentation of that plaque here at a future council meeting.
Good. Any comments?
Just 2 thumbs up.
I do have a question for you. Jim, how is the supply chain coming on transformers and things that you've been missing?
It's still bad, still lots of delays, but our warehouse staff have been really working overtime to pull out all the stops, make all the contacts they can. We've established a relationship with Arkansas Electric, which is we're on their list. Let's put it that way. We've established a purchase order with them, so that as every month as they get equipment available, we're at the near the front of their list to get some of those delivered to us. We've been able to find meters. We've been able to find some of the pole mount transformers. So our warehouse guys are doing an amazing job, but it is still a challenge.
Well, that sounds pretty decent then.
That's kind of a good update. So I know that there was a time frame where there was some confusion of people who installed solar, and we didn't have the right meters that would read both ways. But we gave them meters that ran forward and backwards, and we just charged them only the difference. So they were getting credit for that. But all of those meters have now been replaced because we've got a whole order of those in. So now they will see on their bill the credit that they get for the solar and then the charge for what they use.
Sounds good.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. Deputy City Manager, you have anything?
Yeah, just real quickly. Dan mentioned, the water, the tasting water, the finalists. We are there. Mr. McDowell, you mentioned, our reliability from a power perspective, right? We don't have any outstanding violations with the state or the federal government with our treatment of our sewer, right? All these things don't happen by accident. They happen because of these folks here. They happen because of the great folks we have out in the field doing work every day. They are really committed to making the city better and doing their job well. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our staff. They're doing a great job. And we often take these services for granted till they don't work. And so we're very grateful that they do work most of the time, and we're doing exceptional. So just wanted to say that.
Totally agree with
Me too.
you. Okay, any questions for the deputy city manager? Hearing none. Upcoming items, we got finance and administration. That brings us to board member comments. Does any board member have anything to say?
I do.
Mr. Boatright.
Yeah, I said I was down here jotting down my grocery list, but it wasn't really my grocery list. I guess I've got some concerns about the way this whole thing was handled with our recommendation on those combustion turbines. And now the council wants to do a study. Well, we've already got a study that was updated, in 2022, I believe, that I guess they haven't looked at or didn't like or was on the wrong color paper. I don't know what the reason was. So now we're going to do another study. Some of the stuff's already been mentioned, but they ignored the PUAB recommendation. In fact, at that council meeting, if anybody was there or saw it, there was no discussion. We've hired highly competent people to follow what Mr. Norris said about it doesn't happen by accident. You have the right people. We have them there, but their decision-making isn't followed through on. Somebody, at a higher level thinks they know more about it. And so now we're going to do things. But they just ignored their impact, didn't ask them for any feedback or to explain anything. It was just voted down. They say that handling of IPL, when they make a decision, has got to go to a vote of the council due to the amount of money. Well, are they going to do the same thing with the new police station? An $90 million police station, is that going to go before the voters to get approval? I don't know. I haven't heard that. We've missed some of these windows with FERC and SPP that we've already talked about. So now we're delaying. If we do any kind of new generation, if we decide to go that route, now that's 3 to 5 year delay. What's going to happen to costs? We all know what's going to happen to costs. Studies have shown, we've already talked about this a little bit, about an increase in rates. And trust me, if somebody else steps in and buys this utility, if that's the route they go, you're going to see a rate increase. And 30% is not out of the question based across the industry. You can say that's speculation. It's not going to happen, but those buyers are going to want to recover their cost. We don't have a lot of commercial customers or industrial customers coming in. So who's left? Individual households, and they're going to pay that. And so, we're not all doom and gloom. We don't know which way this is going to go. It's just some things to think about. But I was very upset when I saw that council meeting, to where it was just like there's already been a decision made and we're not going to even discuss the others. We're just going to vote them down and move on. That really bothers me. We're here for a reason to make recommendations to the council. And we saw what our recommendation came to was nothing. Their recommendation, the same thing, the way it was handled. There's better ways to handle it than the way it was handled. And, I don't know where we go from here. It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole process plays out, how much involvement the PUAB has in that, any discussion that we can get involved in or decision making. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. I want to commend the guys from IPL for the reliability awards and the safety awards and all the work that you do. I'm just sorry that we couldn't support you better in getting the future generation needs of the city taken care of. It's not a short-term thing. These decisions are very expensive and it takes a while to get them. If you think supply chain's bad to get some pipe in, try buying, something a lot larger than that. It's just not going to happen that quick. And now we're going to be back in the FERC and SPP treadmills of 3 to 5 years whenever they can get to it. And hopefully that time frame will be reduced, but there's no justification or no reason to think it's going to change. So I'm really just disheartened in the way this whole thing was handled. We've got people, we've got experts that make a decision, and seems like their opinions don't matter. So I'm off my soapbox now. I just wanted to get that off my chest. So I'll be signing autographs out here to pay for my bail.
Mr. Boatright, I just want you to know that I totally agree with what you said. I've served on multiple committees for the City of Independence, put in over 20 years on committees for the City of Independence. Every recommendation that has ever been made was approved, and the ones that weren't were given explanations why. This city council, I shook my head. I come up for renewal at the end of June, and I don't think I'm going to come back for the simple fact I'm very disheartened the way their actions are. I just don't get it either. I just don't get it. That's all I've got.
Anybody else?
And I'm sorry, and I'm gonna be in agreement with Les also, because it goes along with what I said too, that they will reimburse their costs. They will recover their costs if it's sold. But I also want to commend everybody to all the people here in this room for all the work that's done and all the work that the employees do. Keep lights on and water running and toilets flushing. So, but then Stephanie reminded me one thing I didn't say, and it's very important too, because one thing that a municipal utility can do, they tend to be more flexible and understanding and working with the people. You get a for-profit in here, if your bill isn't paid in 30 days, the next day or two, your lights are off, your water's off, whatever, you don't pay. And there will be no, well, sorry, speak to the hand. So that's another thing that people really have to understand. And this comment is more for the benefit of the people listening, because there will not be, with a for-profit company, there will be no leeway. There just won't. You don't pay, you don't get. So, thank you.
Anybody else? You have anything?
Yeah. I compliment all of our utilities again for the things that have been mentioned and all the things that don't get mentioned, but just simply the financials are predictable. That's so valuable that people who do not have that, and they come up with surprises that are millions and millions of dollars with no way to pay for them. That kind of stuff can bankrupt a city and on and on. But I do appreciate those day-to-day reliable and consistent and high quality services. But I still want my 6% that we gave them a few years ago, because there's no sense in, if we keep or sell this utility, letting it run at a deficit when we're providing a good product and not charging market rates.
Okay. I too would like to agree with Mr. Boatwright. I was very disheartened by the way this whole thing went down. And I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to, we're going to need bail money for Mr. Boatwright. We need two. So I'll just leave it at that. Our next meeting date will be May 18th, 2023. And if there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Everybody, thank you.